Well, Steve Helwagen is all over this all the time for 24/7 Sports and Bucknuts, and Steve Helwagen joins us now. And Steve, here we sit, July 6th, and the Buckeye recruiting machine never stops, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was, we talked about it, different times throughout the month, but it was, as it turned out, a great month for Ohio State football and recruiting, and the coaches did just, it seems, a masterful job juggling camps, and they even went off campus for a couple of satellite camps, I think one in New Jersey and one in Florida, or I believe one in Georgia, maybe three of them altogether. I'm not entirely certain, but they were busy throughout the month, and we talked about it as well, that now is the dead period leading up to the start of preseason practice, which will be upon us in roughly 3 weeks from right now. They'll be starting practice, believe it or not, for the 2018 season. So it will be here before we know it, but the coaches recharging after what was a really busy June for them.
What allowed them to be so successful? Obviously, it's been a trend here since Urban Meyer has arrived at Ohio State. What's behind the success in this particular summer?
I think you have to look at it as organization, and obviously Coach Meyer is entering, what will this be, his seventh season, I guess, sixth, seventh, I'm losing track, but I guess 2012 was his first year. So this will be his seventh season as the head coach at Ohio State, and the machinery has not changed a whole lot. He and Mark Pantoni is his staff recruiting coordinator, and then you have a lot of continuity with the assistant coaching staff. You have guys who have been there a while, like Larry Johnson on the defensive line. Taver Johnson is back at Ohio State for the second time now. Greg Schiano is back as well on the defensive side. And then over on the offensive side, Tony Alford's been at Ohio State for a while, and Zach Smith has been with Meyer the entire time, since he came to Ohio State. So I think you have to look at it and just say that the coaches are organized. They know the prospects they want to consider and look at, and obviously the camp gives them a chance to bring those kids in and work them out and see which ones are the ones that they think could be Ohio State players. So, yeah, I think from top down, these guys are in lockstep on how they want to conduct their business.
Steve, you heard Stan say that it's different now than it was certainly when he was being recruited at Ohio State. You've followed recruiting for as long as you've followed college football. What are the big differences in terms of the way these kids are looking at different opportunities and the way these staffs are going after these kids seemingly at an earlier and earlier age?
I don't even know how they did it in the old days, because I think the coaches had to go out and physically walk into a high school and sequester an old VHS tape or something, or maybe later on a DVD to get an idea of what a kid can do. And nowadays there's none of that. All the top 2,000 kids in the country, or however many there are in a given year, all of their highlight tapes are on one of the internet services like Huddle, which is so sophisticated, this website, that the coach can go in after his team plays a game, and let's say the quarterback out of 50 plays has 40 really good plays or 30 really good plays, whatever it is, and he just tags his name on those 30 plays that really stood out for him in that game, and now it's part of his online profile forever. So to me, that is a connectivity of where we are today compared to where we were 25 years ago is just night and day. I mean, if there is a diamond in the rough kid out there and they get a name for him, all they have to do is type the name into the computer and watch, his best 30 plays from his junior year, and they can decide immediately, hey, this is a guy that we got to get on campus, a guy we got to go talk to, and so I think that is what has changed as much as anything. Plus, the communication used to be you had to call a kid at home and hope you caught him. I worked at Buckeye Sports Bulletin before I came to Bucknuts, and Mark Ray was the editor there. I think when Stan got to Ohio State, and he tells a story. I think they recruited a kid named Tyrone Morrison out of San Diego or something like that, and first of all, Mark was operating at the disadvantage of being 3 hours time difference. Ohio to California,
right,
to try and track him down. Well, he'd call out there and they'd say, "Oh, he's at the spa." So, yeah, I mean that there was no such thing as texting the kid or calling his cell phone when he's at the spa or going to and from to try and catch a word with him. So just imagine the college coaches trying to get through to kids, and now they can just simply drop them a text or a private message on Twitter or however they want to do it. All the connectivity is just amazing.
It really is. And so the stories of Bill Connelly tells the famous story about recruiting Eddie George, and not that many people have known about him. Those days are probably past us now, right? If Eddie George is doing what he's doing wherever he is, if he's at Fork Union or wherever he is, people are going to find out about it.
Yeah, that is amazing. I want to use a basketball analogy on this. Kyle Young, who is currently on the Ohio State team, Michigan State thought they were getting in on the ground floor with Kyle Young, the player from up in Massillon, in basketball, and then word got out, on Twitter, on the internet, whatever, that Michigan State had offered him in the spring of his junior year. And at that point, when that happened, it was a feeding frenzy, and everybody came in with an offer. And ultimately, he committed to Butler and Holtman, and then ended up switching it, obviously, to Ohio State. But that's the closest thing I can remember is there are no secrets in recruiting anymore, because somebody is going to be really happy they got an offer from somebody, and or that they've talked to somebody, and it's on the internet instantaneously. When even a phone call, a lot of times it's on the not a recording of the call, but just the idea that a representative from a school has contacted a player.
Talking with Steve Helwagen, 24/7 Sports, and Bucknuts.com, of course. And Steve, of these young men who have committed either for this upcoming class of 2019 or for 2020, who's got the most buzz? Who's got the most excitement? Maybe it's this young quarterback out of the Scottsdale area, Jack Miller. Who has got the folks in the coaching office at Ohio State most excited right now?
Yeah, I think you start with Miller. I think that's a good place to start because the quarterback position is obviously in a state of major flux. When you lose a guy like Joe Burrow, who could have been the backbone, we'll never know if he was going to be the starter or not. But they really needed to replenish the depth and also find a blue chip quarterback. I think, last year they took Matthew Baldwin as kind of an 11th hour stopgap thing. He had started one season for his high school in Texas and then was injured. And obviously, his situation's been well documented. So hopefully he can get back into the flow of things and help the team. But, they needed a quarterback, plain and simple. And they did get one, DeJuan Mathis, for 2019, but then to also add a real blue chipper in Jack Miller. He's a national top 50 prospect, overall number 3 pro-style quarterback out of Arizona. So I think, he's one. Paris Johnson, the big offensive lineman from St. X, also in that 2020 class. Those guys are probably the two big stalwarts. And Johnson, he's a national top 10 prospect. So when you think about that, a kid who's got a ranking, and these are a couple of Stan's contemporaries he knows well, Corey Stringer, Orlando Pace, that's the kind of ranking coming out of high school that they probably had, 25, 30 years ago, whatever it was. And for Paris Johnson to be kind of looked at the same way is pretty exciting.
Well, lots of names to look forward to, and I can't think of any other program anywhere in the world who would have two guys named Paris, one a current player and one a future player.
And this past year they also added a Jean Baptiste, and I think there was another interesting name in there as well, Petit Ferrer.
Yes.
So they've got Paris, France, and French speaking, and it's really something what they've done.
We got it all covered. All right. Well, again, appreciate it, man. How's your summer going? How's your golf game? Good?
I actually got out and hit a few balls yesterday. I'm going to play in an outing for Children's Hospital next week. Really excited about that. So, excited to get out on the golf course and get it in now because we'll be in Chicago in under 3 weeks.
Exactly. Take advantage of the time. Take advantage of the time. All right. Thanks, Wagon. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take care.